McDonald's says that McDonald's is bad for you. A few years ago, McDonald's put out a guide of healthy eating and healthy living. And in that guide, they said don't eat fast food. They said to eat something else instead. What was that? Subway. 2013, McDonald's released a certain guide on their employees' website. So they have a separate website specifically for helpful tips for their employees. The particular employees they're targeting are the American-based employees on a very low minimum wage. It's just their way of saying, we don't care about you, but let's make it more livable, even though it's not really. So in that guide, there's a few other stuff besides food. For example, one of the things the guide says for their employees, in order to save money or gain money or whatever, you can do things like return unopened Christmas gifts and stuff like that to stores for some store credit and stuff. This stuff actually says it in the McDonald's employees guide. We're going to focus on the food part. So in this guide, you'll see this image right here. This image is provided by a third-party provider on healthy eating and stuff like that. In this guide, it says, don't eat things like this, showing burgers, fries, and soft drink, and eat stuff like this instead, which is obviously a Subway sandwich. The guide further goes to say that you really want to restrict, if not take out entirely, deep fried foods from your diet for healthy eating. And it says, fast food can be used for a quick, convenient meal, but you want to choose an option that allows you to put more vegetables onto the food. So the option they're showing without directly saying it is Subway saying to put as many vegetables onto the sandwich as possible. Now, as far as health tips go, yes, deep fried's bad. No, not necessarily vegetables are good for you. So it's kind of misguided on that. But the issue here is that McDonald's puts out in their guide for their employees not to eat their food. So if that's what they're selling, from a business perspective, as in, this is what we want our company to run on, these are the standards our company runs on, is not eating unhealthy food so employees stay functional. What are they really saying to you as the consumer? They're saying their food is so bad for you, it won't even make you a functional person who can functionally work at their place. Of course, the information comes out and people go to get answers from them. So what does McDonald's say? Oh, you're probably expecting to say, oh, that's false information, that was never on the website, but they didn't say that. They actually stood on business and said, we actually did put that stuff on there. They say all this stuff's taken out of context. These are all third-party providers who provide this information, and we do stand by that information. Now, McDonald's aren't the only business that has come under this situation. A while ago, a former CEO of Coke was actually asked how much Coke he drinks per day and what his favorite was, and he said he tries not to drink too much of it. That's pretty much all he said. And within a few months, he was gone and another guy was brought in. An interview was scheduled with him again so they can get their information out. And they asked this guy, how many Cokes do you drink? And it's obviously a really fat guy, and he says, I drink multiple Diet Cokes per day, maybe one every hour or so. So of course, that's what they wanted to promote, even though the original person said they didn't have it. Now, McDonald's saying their food is bad for you could be based on one of two things: current studies or internal studies. If it's based on current studies, what they're saying isn't actually entirely correct. McDonald's isn't actually bad for you in the way you think it is. A lot of their burgers, like the meat patties, for example, are 100% meat, and they're actually fried without oil because they're frozen and just flash fried on a pan without oil, because that's pretty much how they cook that. So the patties themselves aren't necessarily too bad. The burger buns don't have a lot of ingredients that are outside of regular bread, so that's pretty normal as well. Not necessarily good for you, but fairly normal. The really bad part is, of course, the chips in the refried oil. If you want to learn more about that, make sure you check out my video on canola oil. I go into detail about refried seed oils. That's why it's so bad for you. You need to watch that video towards the end. That'll tell you the information you need to know on that. On the other hand, saying Subway's better for you based on those stats. Subway a couple of years ago in Ireland got passed a law that they aren't allowed to regard their sandwiches as having bread because the bread had such a high sugar content Ireland counted it as confectionery. And of course, Subway fought against that, but they didn't get that overturned. They had to change their recipe. So Subway is obviously not as good as it sounds. Plus, a lot of vegetables aren't actually good for you, but that's a whole other topic. So let's keep it simple and say McDonald's isn't actually as bad as you think it is. And in a lot of ways, it's actually better for you than Subway. But based on current stats, they always say things like saturated fat and salts and stuff are bad for you. So they could be saying their food is bad for you based on that, which actually isn't true. So then there's the other side of it, which is much worse, is it based on internal information? Now, internal information would be secret aspects of the production process which aren't on labels or aren't common knowledge. There could be elements to it that are so poisonous that they go to say, our food's that bad for you because of these elements to it. However, because the ingredients are there and there's not a lot you can do to the product, and because that was done by a third party, I'm guessing it was based on current research, which isn't necessarily true. So in some ways, McDonald's is actually one of the healthiest fast foods because their meat patties, as long as you get the meat is no added ingredients and not even added oil to cook with. So it is better than a lot of other stuff. Not better than high quality ingredients, but better than pretty much every other option, but not the chips though. If you want me to look at any other fast foods and what's in them, or secrets behind them, basically, then let me know in the comments and I will be getting to those next.